Whew, welcome to the video on calculating markup. I gotta tell ya, it's been a day today. For the second time when I started recording a video, my microphone was on mute. But I think I fixed that setting now, so it shouldn't happen anymore. Today we are talking about markup, and you may be asking yourself, Ms. Benson, what is markup? Well, let me tell you. Okay, markup has some similarities with tax and tip because it is an amount that is added onto the price of an item. And just like tax, tip, and discount, it is usually represented with a percentage. All right? But how is it different than tax and tip? So let's pretend you go down to 7-Eleven and you pick up a bag of Takis. If you're taking notes, you do not need to write this down. Okay? I'm just drawing a picture. You pick up a bag of Takis for $5. Delicious. And the next day you go to school and one of your buddies says, "Hey man, let me get those Takis from you." But you are a smart businesswoman or businessman, and you are not just going to give these Takis to your friend. You are going to sell the Takis to your friend, and you're going to sell it so that you make a profit. All right? So when you sell the Takis to your friend, maybe you sell it for $6 or $7 or $8. And that amount that you added onto the price of the Takis, that's a markup. All right? That's how you make a profit. Because if you sold the Takis to your friend for $5, you make zero profit. And if you sell the Takis to your friend for less than $5, you're losing money. So be a good businesswoman or a good businessman and make sure you always add a markup when you're reselling things. And the reality of it is, every store that you go to does this because 7-Eleven does not have somebody in the back of the store making Takis. They bought those from the Taki factory somewhere, and it probably cost them 50 cents, and then they sold it to you for $5. And now you're going to sell it to your friend for $8. So that's a double markup. Now, to find markup, there are 4 methods, just like there are for all of our other percentage problems. And if you've been in class for any of these or you've watched any of our other videos, you know that there are 4 methods for finding the answers to these questions. I'm going to go through these quicker than I have in the other videos. So if you're watching a method and you feel like you don't understand it, go back to the video on tax because I explain all 4 of them in great detail there. But I want to keep this video a little bit shorter, so I'm going to go through them a little bit faster. All right, let's read this first question and solve it with a model. A garden center purchases rose bushes from a local farmer for $12. They apply a 25% markup on these plants. How much will the price increase? So I know that 25% is 1/4, and my bar model is already split into fourths for me. So if I'm trying to find a 25% markup, I'm going to shade 1/4 of this bar model. That's going to be 25%. Now, I need to know how many dollars that is, but I can figure that out from the information that's given to me. If 50% is $6, then 25% is $3 because it was half of that. So to answer the question, how much will the price increase? The price will increase $3. That's how much profit the store is going to make. But the follow-up question says, what is the total price a customer would pay for a rose bush? So the customer is going to pay the $12, and the customer is also going to pay the $3. So their total is going to be $15. But that $12 basically goes back to the farmer, and the store is actually only making $3 on this rose bush. So that's how markup works. If they want to know what's the price increase, the answer to this would be $3. But if it wants the total price, the answer is 15. Method 2, estimation. And if you watch the tax video, you know I love estimation, so let's do it. The Cozy Corner bookstore purchases books from publishers at a wholesale price of $9 per book. They apply a markup of 52%. Estimate how much profit the bookstore will make on each book. So the key to estimation is using those benchmark percentages, and 52% is not a benchmark percentage, but 50% is, and I can find 50% of pretty much any number. But I'm going to make my life really easy, and instead of leaving the price at $9 per book, I'm going to round that answer as well, and I'm going to round it to 10. And I'm going to figure out what 50% of $10 is. And if you know that 50% means half, then it's as simple as finding half of $10. And half of $10 is $5. So when it says estimate how much profit the bookstore will make on each book, I estimate that they'll make a $5 profit. Now I'm going to estimate the retail price, that's a good word, that customers can purchase these books for. So the customer has to pay the wholesale price, which we rounded to $10, and they have to pay the markup, which we estimated to be $5. So this book is going to cost the customers approximately $15. Now that's not exact because we're estimating, but I can do all of that in my head or on paper really, really quickly without using Desmos. So that's why I like estimation. It's not perfect, but it is a good estimate. All right, now the next two are going to be exact. They're more straightforward. They go into Desmos, and that is using a percent and using a decimal. So let's do the percent one. Janaya started her own business making jewelry. To make a pair of earrings, she buys all of her supplies from Amazon for $3.75. She sells the earrings after a 200% markup. How much does she mark up the price of the earrings? Now, this is a really good example because in real life, most stores are not marking something up 25% or even 52%. They're usually going way over 100%. And if you go over 100% markup, it just means it's going to more than double the price. So these earrings are going to go up in price a significant amount. All right, if I'm using the percent method, all I have to do is type this into Desmos. 200% of $3.75. And I should get my answer, which is $7.50. So how much does she mark up the price of the earring? $7.50. But that is not the price that the customer pays. So when it says the final price, you have to do one more step, just like you would with tax, just like you would with tip. You're going to take the original cost, which was the $3.75. That's what she spent on supplies. And you're going to add the markup, the $7.50, to figure out what the final price is. But what I should have done, and I did in the tax video, was we're going to hit the answer button because we don't want to make any typing mistakes. Okay, so in Desmos, I'm going to take the cost of the materials and then I'm going to add that markup. And that means that a customer buying Janaya's earrings is going to pay $11.25. So how much does she mark it up? $7.50. What's the final price? $11.25. And that means we just have one method left. And hopefully these are looking familiar to you. I don't want the word markup to throw anybody off. If you were really successful with tax and tip, you're going to be fine with this. Okay? So last question, we're going to use decimals. It says Tech Trends Electronics purchases the latest smartphone from the manufacturer for $800. They want to price the smartphones competitively while still making a profit. So they decide on a 45% markup. How much profit will the store make on each phone? So I'm going to first change this to a decimal by dividing by 100. Because if it's not a decimal, I can't use this method. So 45 divided by 100, there's my decimal. And then all I have to do is multiply that by the price. And I'm going to use parentheses. You don't have to. When you put it in Desmos, you can just use the multiplication symbol. But I'm going to use parentheses to show multiplication. So how much profit will the store make on each phone? The store is going to make $360 of profit. But you're not getting out of this store only paying $360. So when it says what price will customers pay, you have to take the original price of the phone and add that markup. So in Desmos, let's do 800 plus that last answer. And the customer is going to pay $1,160. Now, you don't have to add in every single one of these questions. You have to read them carefully. If they just want to know how much profit, your answer is 360. But if they want to know that final price, your answer is 1,160. So just be really careful, and y'all are going to be great with this. And we got that done about 2 minutes faster than the tax video. So great job hanging in there, everybody. Let us know if you have any questions.